Ever since leaving the United States, I've been traveling all over the world, slowly building my network of homes around the world, of bases, of what I call focus cities. And what sometimes people will ask is, why did you choose this one place over another place? Often they're asking, why did you choose a place that is far less popular or far less known over a place that so many people go to? Today, I'm going to walk you through some of the places that I call home and spend time in, and why I chose those cities over the alternatives. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. I'm the author of this book, Nomad Capitalist. And here at Nomad Capitalist, our team of over 40 people around the world, our network of global experts, curated over the years, and yours truly, help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. Today, I want to talk about the places that I call home and why I have chosen them. Places that I like spending time in, and why I often go off the beaten path and choose less conventional places versus where the masses often choose. And spoiler alert, I like being a little bit different. I like being a bit of a contrarian. I like, to a certain extent, being in a place where I can choose to be left alone if I want to, where I'm not in a totally expat-filled environment, and I can choose to blend more into the local culture. I'm not saying that being in an expat-filled environment is wrong. In fact, I think if you're just leaving your country for the first time, you want to reduce your taxes, you want to find more personal freedom, that may be a nice baby step to go somewhere where you've got a lot of English speakers who are from your country. Nothing wrong with that at all. But what I found is I like places with a bit more grit. I like places that are a bit more off the radar. And so if you've been with us for years, watching videos, listening to podcasts, reading articles, the idea of Tbilisi, Georgia, Montenegro, Bogota, Kuala Lumpur seems pretty common by now. But it wasn't always. And so let's start with Montenegro. Number of years ago, close to a decade now, 7 or 8 years ago, I spent a good chunk of the year in Eastern and Southeast Europe. And I remember going around the Balkans, and it was summer, beautiful. Went through Albania, went through Montenegro, spent time in Croatia, went to Serbia a couple times, and really fell in love with Montenegro. Now, part of what I tell people is, finding the places that work for you is a matter of exploration. I can guide you to places that I like. You may not share my opinion. So I think that if you're looking at it up and coming right now, Albania may be a better opportunity than Montenegro. But I really fell in love with Montenegro. And I guess if you're a connoisseur of Bond movies, the fact that it was the scene of a Bond movie, although nothing was really filmed in Montenegro, looks nothing like that. I've driven by that casino many times. Doesn't look anything like it. That's certainly some intrigue. But anyway, I'm going through all the different countries. And I remember, Croatia, which is a much more, common alternative to Montenegro in that part of the world, on the Adriatic. I talk every summer to many people when I'm sitting in my home in Montenegro. We'll talk on the phone, and they'll say, I'm just up the coast in Croatia. And my impression when I went to Croatia, the reason I didn't go there is because I talked to a number of lawyers when I went there. And the impression that I got in general from how the government works and their attitude towards bringing people in was, this is not worth the hassle. The juice is not worth the squeeze. Getting a residence permit is not as straightforward. Getting citizenship is relatively difficult. Now, it's relatively difficult in Montenegro as well, unless you go through the citizenship by investment program. But, there's a larger investment required in Croatia. Okay, yes, they have their own currency, which potentially offers lower pricing in some regards. But taxes are a lot higher. The government just does not seem as welcoming. And as you've seen Croatia become very popular, I do kind of think that the government perhaps maintains that approach. You've seen other countries in the region offer tax incentives. I haven't seen as much that I like out of Croatia. And so for me, a big thing is culture. Where are people more welcoming? Now, certainly if you're coming from somewhere in the West, adjusting to Montenegro, it may be a little bit of an adjustment if you're going to be there long term, just beyond a couple weeks or a month in the summer. But I've come to understand and appreciate the culture. We have a great team in Belgrade, rather similar culture, as much as the Montenegrins might not want to admit it at times. But I like the fact that Montenegro, much lower tax, government seemed more open, population is really tiny, government is relatively accessible. I've met with folks in the government, high-level people in the government. It's just easy to get things done there. You don't have as many consumer conveniences if you're stocking up your home with furniture, you're going to have fewer options for sure. But I like the fact that Montenegro seemed a bit more up and coming. It's not in the European Union. The tax situation is much better. And I just found people there that I liked. And so I have some great friends in Montenegro. Love spending time there every summer. And so that's why I chose Montenegro over Croatia. Now, Colombia, where I sit. Medellin, certainly a very popular place for expats. Single expats in particular. And so why not go to Medellin when I was single? Why not stay in Medellin, whether you're single or not? And for me, the answer was, what I liked about Bogota was I already have identified that I love living in Kuala Lumpur. I'll come to that in a second. I'm in Montenegro in the summer, part of the summer. I'm in other places in Europe that are really hot in the summer. And so for me, what I discovered over time was I liked the idea of having some seasons. Bogota, being at a higher elevation, is somewhat of a perpetual autumn. And I don't think you would ever wear shorts around in Bogota. I have a great tailor here, and I love, wearing, just like this tweed jacket. Like the ability to be a bit more formal, like the ability to have a place where you can wear a sweater, and it's not just, putting on a t-shirt or a polo shirt or a short sleeve shirt every day. And you can be a little bit more creative in that way. So beyond the sartorial influence, I like being in the capital. It's a bit more business friendly. And because so many people are in Medellin, and I think some people are now going to Cali, you're seeing some people going to the coast as well. I'm largely here on my own. I do run into people from time to time who live in Bogota, who watch our channel, both locals and foreigners who are living in Bogota. But to me, again, it's being out of the place where everyone's going is important to me. I get the weather that I want. I get to pop in for a month, 2 months, 3 months a year. And, it's very comfortable in that regard. Now, let's talk about Kuala Lumpur, probably the original base. Kuala Lumpur in Asia. Malaysia often gets overlooked, and I've helped a number of people move to Malaysia. And whenever I meet them in person, I ask them, what do your friends think about this? Many of them have other friends who are nomads, who are expats, and they say they don't really get it because they're not living in Thailand, or occasionally they're living in the Philippines. Malaysia is the overlooked gem of Southeast Asia, and they're likely to reopen their MM2H residence program soon. And so because it's overlooked, it's very fascinating to me. I've said for almost a decade that Malaysia is perhaps the United States of Asia in all the good ways and very few of the bad ways. You've got diversity, which I like. It leads to being able to interact with different cultures, being able to have all those different cultures' foods, which are for the large part delicious. You have the British influence that you're missing in Thailand, so you have a bit higher level of development. Easy to get around the country for leaving Kuala Lumpur. Beautiful places to go in Penang, for example, and Langkawi. People are some of the nicest people in the world. I personally, being in Bangkok, I have not spent a lot of time outside of Bangkok in Thailand, but being in Bangkok, I found the whole land of smiles thing kind of overrated. Now I realize in a country's version of New York, you're probably not going to find the nicest people, but I found Bangkok, and again, I'm not here to criticize anyone. I have one of my best friends and multiple good friends of mine live in Bangkok, and they love it. And we disagree in this, but we respect each other's decisions. For me, a Bangkok, for example, is a guy who likes cities. It's too big. It's a little too gritty almost. I don't mind some grit. It is just, too much in the middle. What I found is in Kuala Lumpur, again, I get to be alone. I still see people who come up to me, but I think it's less so than it would be in Thailand. And so I get to choose to blend into the local culture, which for me is much more Western friendly. English is much more widely spoken. There is a value to that, as much as learning other languages can be valuable. I think that if you want to be content, having a base that speaks English is important. I did not find that as much in Thailand, at least in the local communities. And so I also think that the government in Malaysia, by and large, is much more welcoming. We can certainly talk about the last year with the pandemic, but I think a lot of Asian countries were kind of closed in that regard. So Kuala Lumpur makes the cut for me because I just found it to be much more. I just feel at peace there. And again, everyone gets to make their own decisions, but I like to say when everyone else is in Thailand, let me do something different. Let me be off the beaten path. Let me try something that potentially could be a hidden gem, and I think it has been a hidden gem. Now, I mentioned earlier we have a good part of our team in Belgrade, Serbia. One place that I think Belgrade competes with is Budapest, Hungary. And so a lot of people have been going to Budapest in recent years and setting up shop there. My personal thought is, as much as Hungary is not really Western Europe, the government certainly is not Western Europe, either Hungary or Poland, they're still in the European Union. They may have their own currency, they may beat to their own drum, but they're in the EU, and there is a vibe of that. Beautiful city, Budapest is. I would argue, certainly, that it is a more beautiful city than Belgrade, which is just a couple hours south. But, Belgrade to me felt a bit more raw. I remember when I first went to Belgrade, and my God, this is so many years ago, but I was single, I was walking up this main high street, Knez Mihajlova, and I'm going up and I'm talking to girls, and I don't know why, a couple times I mentioned, I was just in Croatia, I'm going to Croatia, and they said, oh, this is right after after Croatia joined the European Union. And these girls, there's a word that to this day I still hear in Serbia occasionally. Oh, they are very fancy now. Now they joined the European Union. They're very fancy. And there is something to that. I like the we're not in the European Union vibe. Certainly there's consumer conveniences. It's easy to send money in the European Union to other countries. There's certain investments you can make. And there's a lot of perks to being in the EU. But for me, there's a perk of being out of the EU where you can have a country that says, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to straddle the line between the West and the East, and we're going to, again, be a bit more wild. And if you've looked at, what's happened in the last year, no country's been perfect, but I think I would rather be in Serbia than in most European Union countries. And so, again, more accessible, easier to get things like residence permits. I understand for a digital nomad who may live on tourist visas, Budapest has a certain appeal. We've seen in the last year that's become difficult, living on tourist visas. But not only do I see Budapest as becoming very trendy, which in a sense I like. I remember going there 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they had really nice, taco stands and hot dog and beer stands, and that was interesting. But even though Belgrade is not as beautiful, I found the people a bit more relatable. Never really get honestly. I mean, in Budapest, I think I've been called racist slurs 4 times in my life, and all 4 were in Budapest. I know people get, it's never happened to me. Well, it's not something that's entirely out of character in Hungary. Sorry if you're Hungarian, but, that's kind of the truth. And I'm not saying that people in Serbia, we make videos in Serbia, and there's always some dumb guy, Serbia for Serbians. But it's much less prevalent. And I just like the fact that Belgrade is a little bit, of more of a hidden kind of place where you can go, you can be left alone, you can do your own thing, you can get business done. There are some beautiful parts of Belgrade. There is a beautiful food culture. I think, quite frankly, Serbia, compared to Hungary, much more interesting country to explore. I did a lot of weekend trips in the last year all around Serbia. Very beautiful places. And so that's why it shows Belgrade. Belgrade over a place like Budapest. Certainly you could choose Belgrade over a number of other European cities. Kuala Lumpur over Bangkok, for example. Montenegro over Croatia, and Bogota over Medellin and other cities in Colombia. Here's the thing. I'm not here to judge anyone's decisions. I think you should go and explore and find the places that treat you best. What I have said before is I fear that at times there is a herd mentality where one guy goes to Bangkok, 10 guys go to Bangkok, 100 guys go to Bangkok. And I want you to make sure that you're finding places that work for you. I understand the value of social and the social network. I also understand how having too many people who are all in the same boat can potentially hold you back in business. If you go to a place like, many places in Southeast Asia, you may be surrounded by people who are at the level in business that you want to be at. If you're trying to build a big business. I had a guy that I talked to a number of years ago who said, I'm leaving Southeast Asia, he said, because I don't think I can build my business to a 9-figure business in this environment. I don't entirely agree, but I see where he's coming from. And I see the temptation where you want to be surrounded by people who are where you're from, but a lot of those people may not want to work as hard as you do. And again, nothing wrong with that. But I think it's important to surround yourself with like-minded people. That is a challenge. And so I would rather be surrounded by far fewer people but people that I like. And in the cities I've talked about, I've made local friends and I've made foreign friends who I think really share the journey that I'm on as a nomad capitalist, which is growing a successful business, making and saving money. So keep that in mind when you're looking for a place, and don't follow the herd. Those are my places that I've chosen to not follow the herd. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.